Hello, welcome to Story Circles. You probably know the story of King Midas and that everything he touches turns to gold. However, you may not know the other part of that story where Midas gets the airs of an ass. Let's read and listen to the Greek myth of King Midas.
One day, King Midas's men were walking around the outskirts of his great palace in Phrygia, when they came across a peculiar sight. Lying amongst the grapevines was the strangest creature, half man, half beast. He seemed to be in a daze. "Ha!" the men exclaimed, "he smells like a goat." Despite his strong odor, the men picked him up and took him to the king. Midas recognized him at once. He was old Silenus, the companion of Bacchus, the god of nature and wine. "Take him to the best room I keep for my guests. Bathe him and clothe him, and we will feast." For 10 days and nights, in a grand celebration of friendship, King Midas and old Silenus enjoyed sumptuous food and entertainment. Then Midas journeyed with him to Bacchus's home. Such regal treatment pleased Bacchus immensely. "How can I repay you for the hospitality you've shown to my dearest friend? Choose whatever you like, it shall be yours." Midas replied, "What I should like is that everything which I touch should be turned to gold." Startled, Bacchus paused. He wondered at the wisdom of this desire. Nevertheless, he agreed. "It is so," he said. Midas returned to the place where he lived. He reached up to a branch of an old tree and broke off a twig. In his hands, hues of green and brown turned to glittering gold. He smiled in delight. Midas bent down and picked up a grey pebble from beneath the tree. It sparkled in his hand. He grabbed a clod of earth which became rock hard and golden in his palm. He packed them all into his bag. As he walked past his field, he ran his hands over the ears of growing corn, transforming them to a harvest of gold. He picked an apple and marveled at the weight of gold that he held. He walked up to the beautiful steps of his palace and touched the fine marble pillars. These at once gleamed and glistened in the sunlight, and he noticed that even his skin seemed to be plated in gold. He exclaimed to himself, "I am the richest man in the world. This is power indeed." Midas entered his dining room. His heart rose with happiness as he met the enticing aromas of hot baked bread and meat. He sat down to the fine meal that his cook had prepared. He picked up a delicate buttery roll, but bit into a tasteless rock. He grabbed at a piece of meat, yet in his mouth it was just a cool, smooth chunk of metal. Understanding came to him like a punch to the gut. He shoved away his food and stumbled outside. He bitterly regretted his wish. Midas lifted his hands to the sky. "Father Bacchus," he cried, "forgive me for my stupidity. Have pity on me and take away this hateful gift." The gods are kind to humans who realize their faults. Bacchus appeared then to Midas. "Go to the river Pactolus," he ordered. "Follow the river back up the mountain to its source. Look for where the foaming water comes gushing from the rocks. Immerse your entire body in this water, and you will wash away all traces of your wish. And this Midas did. Even today, the river Pactolus rolls over golden sands and carries gold dust to the sea. King Midas had had enough of gold. Now the fields and forests around him beckoned, and the king spent much of his time roaming the mountain range. Pan, the god of shepherds, lived in the high caves. On these very mountainsides he often spent late summer evenings with the carefree young folk of the area. Pan loved to sing merry tunes and play his favourite pipe, one made of reeds joined together with wax. He found so much delight in his own playing that he dared to boast that Apollo's music was second to his own. One day he challenged the god of music himself. "Apollo, have you heard me play my pipe? Bring your lyre, and let Tmolus be our judge." A crowd gathered, King Midas in their midst. Apollo came. His rich purple cape swept the ground as he approached the group. He held a beautiful lyre that sparkled with precious gemstones. On Mount Tmolus, the mountain god freed his heirs from the forest trees, and he said, "The judge attends." Pan made music on his rustic reeds. His simple song entranced Midas. Then Apollo rose. With his expert touch, Apollo plucked the strings of his instrument. His music was so sweet and charming that Tmolus declared him the winner. The sacred mountain's judgment pleased all but one. Midas shouted from the crowd, "That's unfair!" Apollo angrily said, "Midas, you will have heirs to match your foolish mind." And immediately the king's heirs grew long and floppy. Rough grey hair sprouted over them, and Midas found that he could suddenly move them back and forth. In all other ways, Midas was human. Only, as a punishment for his bad taste, he had the airs of a donkey. Midas was ashamed. From that point on, he wore a purple turban that covered up these airs, but the sad truth was soon discovered by the servant who cut his hair. The servant could not bear to keep the secret to himself, yet he didn't dare to tell anyone. The servant went out to the riverbank and dug a hole in the soft earth. He knelt down and whispered into the hole, "Midas has donkey's ears." Pleased that he had spoken the words, but no one had heard them, he carefully replaced the earth and went away. On that same spot where he'd buried the secret, a crop of whispering reeds sprang up. When they were full grown and swayed by the breezes, they released the words that were buried at their roots. "Midas has donkey's ears," they said to every breeze, and the breezes passed along the news.